That was amazing.
I have wanted a Brat my whole life.
Do you make it full-blown race car? I will be the first to admit I didn't love the looks of the car, but the sound absolutely made up for it.
This thing goes to 9,500 RPM at least, depending on when Travis wants to shift or doesn't.
To be able to fly it and slide it, that is actually an engineering marvel.
Scotto wants to make a good film. If the car falls in the water, call for it, let's shoot it.
So each year, Subaru wants to launch a new car with a film, which is kind of a really big ask. We built a couple custom cars through the time with Ken, but a lot of times we would just use whatever current race car we were using, right? Whether it was the HFHV or the RSRX. But for Subaru, they wanted from the day one to build a new car for each film.
Ken Block was very adamant. He said, epic location, epic proximity stunts, not too much of that Nitro Circus baloney. We put a little bit of that. And also, the biggest thing was an epic build. So the first thing I did, went to Vermont SportsCar and Subaru said, I want a Brat. I said, look, we have a new WRX, STI coming out this year. We got a new BRZ, let's try to get that in. We'll have Scott Speed. I'm like, all right, cool. Opportunity for another Gymkhana came up. And I said, again, we need a Subaru Brat. And Subaru started talking about it and they thought, you know what? The nostalgia, especially looking at just kind of me, America, like Evel Knievel, like Olympic ski team. Like, look, this, the GL wagon from, 1980, I think it was 85 or 86, whatever the Olympics were, but we got a 1983 GL wagon. And I was like, all right, that'll do. Like, the family Huckster ended up being probably because it was so small. You think of a wagon being much bigger, but it felt like a go-kart. No real aero. It was 1,000 times better for Gymkhana. Not as good for hill climb stuff, but 1,000 times better for Gymkhana than the Air Slayer. Air Slayer jumped better. Air Slayer was faster, point A to point B, but the family Huckster was a little go-kart. It was freaking awesome, loved it to death.
I think the Huckster was such a success for them. Like, it really stood out, right? I mean, in many ways, I think the Huckster became like their unicorn. Like, it was a car that people knew, they recognized it by the nickname Huckster. We knew that making a fast, crazy wagon was not the normal, right? It wasn't like just taking an STI and, and making it more STI, right? It was like taking something that wasn't supposed to be fast and making it fast. The Huckster so fit Travis's personality, like in a weird way. Like, Travis just fit in this vehicle that just seemed absurd, right? Because everything about Travis is like over the top, and he lives in a certain world of ridiculousness and absurdity.
It got such a positive feedback, and so many people loved it. Everyone was talking about Subaru, and they thought, well, Gymkhana, let's just run this series as a branding exercise, more so than we're thinking about it as an ad for a car. This is a Subaru. What makes a Subaru a Subaru? Let's make this happen. All-wheel drive, something that looks unique, something that's fun, the Brat.
The new Subaru Brat, inexpensive and built to stay that way.
Just tell them it saves you money, buster.
I am James Tate. I'm the Motorsports Marketing Manager here at Subaru of America. I do everything motorsports for us, from licensing to driver contracts to choosing the cars, the builds, the races we participate in, rally, and of course Gymkhana. Just sort of helping to make some of the decisions. Travis had asked in the past about getting a Brat.
I have wanted a Brat my whole life. I just thought it was cool. I thought it was a really neat concept to have seats in the back. Like basically it's a truck, it's a truck, it's a car truck. I just thought it'd be a fun car. It's just something that it's out of place. Doesn't seem like it should be flying through the air, doesn't seem like it should be drifting.
I wish I could say there was this advanced methodology we use to derive exactly with marketing data, this car is the best car suited for this year and this temperature, and that's just not the case. We're sort of trying to assess like what's cool, what does Travis want to do, what follows the last one, what one-ups the last one.
And it was funny because now this time, Scotto and kind of everyone at Hoonigan's thinking, okay, let's kind of homage. Let's throw this back to one of the original early 2000s Gymkhanas, and let's get one of those Subarus, like even the Bug Eye or whatever we're gonna do, whatever style.
We talked about everything from like an 04 era STI, I think there was an SVX, AKA the SVXC, but Travis was really, really heavy on the Brat, mostly because he wants to be able to put people in the back seat. And then Travis ended up building a Brat to go do the film that he did with Black Rifle and Hoonigan. At that point I thought like, okay, like the Brat's already been done, but maybe it was the success of that car at that point. I don't know what it is, but all of a sudden Subaru was super heavy on doing the Brat.
It has a bed and it has selectable four-wheel drive. It was available with two engines. You could get it with a 1.6 liter or a 1.8 liter with about 71 horsepower. So the thing that everyone recognizes about the Brat is its rearward-facing jump seats. Those we added to escape what was called at the time the chicken tax.
Chicken tax. The United States was selling so much chicken at such a low price that Europe couldn't compete, and basically where we were crushing all the chicken farmers in Europe. So Europe said, well, we're gonna tax your chicken. And America said, fine, we're gonna tax your trucks. So any truck that gets sold in the US, we're gonna put a tax on. This was Nixon, and that became known as the chicken tax, and a lot of companies tried to work around it. So for example, Subaru, they shipped it with two seats in the rear, and they actually positioned it as a sedan with an open back. And that's how they got past the whole chicken tax rule, which you just got to enjoy that.
The fact it was a Brat presented huge challenges for VSC. They weren't pleased about that at all. I mean, I feel like that's the relationship. That's how you know you have a good relationship with your engineering side, is that you get them very grumpy and then they find a way to make it work. And then in the end, we're all shaking hands and celebrating. But yeah, I feel like, the Brat was definitely the right choice in the end.
Hi, so I'm Yanis Loizen. I'm Vermont SportsCar Technical Director. Originally, I'm an engine engineer. I've done 16 years of World Rally Championship for different brands, with some World Championship title in my pockets, driver and manufacturers. The difficult things to build a Gymkhana car or design and build a Gymkhana car is again, what is the base car we want to work from. Again, the Brat has been challenging because of his overall shape. Basically, everything started from our company is here to design and to race cars, right? And like, let's say the approach is slightly or even pretty different when you try to design a car that is able, again, to jump far, to do stunts, and also to perform well on some competition like Goodwood and so on.
The design process of the body itself, the 3D, is just like the process of the livery. There's a lot of back and forth. You know, we'll say, we want to start with a Brat. Can you cook up something? And then we'll work from there.
The main challenge is also to get all the parties involved. It's a pretty extensive work to bring everybody, all the ideas together to come up with a final product that will please everyone.
The initial conversation when we did the Brat was like, do you make it full-blown race car? And really just kind of take the huckster approach and you just take all this rally stuff and put it on the Brat? Or do you still embrace a bit of what the Brat is? There was a back and forth on that, right? You know, is it just slammed and, you know, has kind of the classic WRC fender cuts and those items? Or do you do the roll bar, or do you do the bush bar up front or the kangaroo bar? Do you put lights on it and kind of lean more into, you know, sort of the gimmicky side of it, right? Travis, and he'll openly admit he doesn't have as much input on this. Like Travis comes and says, this is what I want to do, make a car that can do that. And then Subaru comes to me and says, okay, do you have any special tricks? Like, are we going to drive over water? Are we going to do a rail slide, right? And how fast does the car need to go? And I give them those details. And that all kind of gets, you know, put in a blender and they make the most sense of it. I gave them a few notes and I said, you know, I think it needs to sound different. Like the last two films is basically the same engine. It sounds the same. So if you guys could think about maybe a different engine, you know, power plant, whether it's a H6 or do something different with the 4, because I think we really need to kind of just change up like the audio sort of sensation we get from the car.
Obviously with the higher rev range, it's designed to make power for a longer period of time. This makes less power than Huckster, but it still makes, 670 horsepower. It's not short on power and more torque than that. So it's a screamer, and it sounds like no other Subaru boxer engine you've heard.
I will be the first to admit I didn't love the looks of the car at testing. It was a little awkward in places, but the sound absolutely made up for it. I mean, the thing just screams. And I like flat engines. I mean, Porsches sound great. I love the sound of kind of like a classic Subaru, but it was a sound that became so kind of standardized to me from rally cars to whatever. And this was the first time that I was like looking at something that was a Subaru and it sounded different. Like it had this super high pitch, more supercar sound to it, or like high-strung race car sound versus just that kind of classic, flat four sound.
The engine didn't really have as much torque, maybe not even as much horsepower overall as the family Huckster, but what it did have was another 1,500 RPMs that it revved out. So it basically, if the Huckster was a 4-stroke, this was a 2-stroke. This, the Brat it sounds good. It revs high. It's mean. It's aggressive.
We wanted the high rev engine. We wanted to do a different personality for this compared to the Huckster. This is an era of like 2,000 horsepower electric things that have the personality of like a cordless drill. And so we're trying to focus on personality of these things. Like this thing goes to 9,500 RPM at least, depending on when Travis wants to shift. Or doesn't.
One of the earlier things I was involved in early was when they were looking at wheel designs. The want from Subaru was to actually create a wheel that looked like it not only originally belonged on the Brat, but was influenced from a wheel from the Brat. So instead of just taking a KMC wheel off the shelf, it was like, hey, here's a wheel and let's design this wheel around that. And that was sort of a joint project between KMC and through the guys at Vermont SportsCar to build a wheel that fit the hubs, fit over the brakes, did all of that, but also carried that classic 4-spoke design that was original on the Brat, and then sort of, be able to create this kind of new, different wheel.
With the Brat specifically, there was a lot of consideration around it being a pickup. Like, unlike in a Ken Gymkhana, this car's got to fly, and pickups don't like to fly. And so there was a lot of consideration put into the Aero of this thing, even relative to the Huckster. The Huckster had incredibly advanced aerodynamics. This is even crazier.
When you look at all the vehicles that Subaru builds, especially Vermont SportsCar, it's like, one, they're trying to build something that works for Travis and works for the film. But then they're also trying to do things that are like first for them. Like you could tell in everything VSC builds that like it's also partially the engineers getting to just like be like, yeah, this is a clean slate. We get to do whatever we want. We don't have to follow a rule book. So, immediately that becomes things like active aero. And one of the biggest concerns with the Brat from day one is that because of its shape, we didn't really know how it was going to fly through the air.
Definitely, that has been a big challenge for us to select this car model. Why? Because we have a trunk at the back, as the first example.
Active Aero has been a big piece that Subaru brings to these, and one of the reasons that they like to use Active Aero is you can end up having really big downforce with something that they can kind of disappear, right? So a pop-out wing in the Huckster, multiple different pieces and rear wings and everything that we had on the Air Slayer, and on the current car, there's a pop-out rear wing, which is nice because it gets out of the way for proximity stuff. It's also interchangeable. We could put different size wings on it while we only used one for this filming. If we wanted to do something that was a much bigger jump in the future, we can.
As you know, you've seen in the previous video, Travis loves big jumps. The longer the jump is, the longer the flight time is, the more important it is to have the right aero balance with the car. So we had to come up with a lot of creative solutions to combine again aero efficiency on track, aero efficiency in the air. One that unfortunately is not ready yet, but we have 4 different flaps that can be controlled by the driver that can open in different positions.
I have no idea if they work, but damn, they look cool. Like, I'm sure they do something. They go like this, they go like this, they dance, like it's kind of crazy. And it was cool because it was programmable. So if you watch, you'll actually notice in different scenes, it's doing different things. So for the ender, We actually put it in like what was called like the dance mode, where they're like alternating back and forth, left and right, as he's doing center axis donuts. That's doing nothing aerodynamically because the car's doing all of like 15 miles an hour, but it makes the smoke come out. The fender's cool, and you know, that part's cool.
They took a lot of time engineering to make sure that we could get more aero on the rear. But what they found was with the bigger roof, because it's a truck, the aero kind of missed the wing. So not only do they have to get the wing up, but they had to get it out.
This wing is the first time we did something like that. Again, because of the size of the cabin, this wing, you can put a big wing, it will not see air. So we came up with a solution that the wing, when the wing comes up, it will extend and get wider to get the side air to influence the car balance.
The kind of cool thing is they've got a climate control just like that of the Brat. And that climate control has been set up to using all the same switches and levers to control that active aero. So Travis, in a pinch, could reach over and, you know, slide his fan on or slide from heat to cold and alter the attitude of the car in the air.
That has been proven to be, not on this car yet, but in the past Gymkhana car, proven to be very useful for Travis. Because when he's in the air, you know, you have like the theory, and then you have a lot of outside components that can influence the car balance in the air.
Trucks are difficult because that's a low pressure area. You'd think counterintuitive you'd think it's a high pressure, but it's air's coming around the back of the bed, and so you need the wing to go way up high really fast.
The number one concern I had when we got to testing was that the big wing, which Giannis was convinced we needed to do to fly straight, was entirely too big and really was going to become a problem when it came to rear proximity moments with the car because of how big the overhang was.
When I first saw the car, I thought the same thing that Scotto did, and that's the rear wing was way too big.
I had asked him to cut the wing back. That unfortunately didn't happen. At that point, you know, the car was a little too far baked to really make some major changes. Luckily, in the end, we were able to use a smaller wing, and it wasn't as big of a problem as we initially thought.
After all the aero testing was done, I had him make a smaller wing. I said, look, make a wing that will, like, it doesn't go up and out. Like, there was so much cool stuff they designed in that car that we really didn't use because I was very adamant on the smaller the wing, the better. Because I wanted to see, like, in the family Huckster, you could tell how close I was. It wasn't something that was above or below, or it wasn't the wing hanging over the back of the car. You hit the back of the car, you hit the back of the car. So that was a very clean area of this is the back, this is your proximity.
As Travis is a great driver, we love his craziness. We love the craziness of some stunts. But one key element, which is for me the most important, is the safety of our driver and safety of Travis.
Travis needs a given area inside the cockpit of any car he's going to drive, just, you know, the shape of Travis. And that was really difficult to do in the Brat. The Brat's a very small package, and so we had to cheat and sort of push that whole cockpit or cage rearward to the extent that he's essentially in line with the B-pillar. If you look at that car square on, he's behind the B-pillar.
It took a lot of engineering for Vermont SportsCar because the Brat, it sits you really far forward. So to get my legs in a position that was comfortable, which is nice when you're doing really scary, hard stuff, they generally know where my seating position is and how much room I'm gonna need. So it's cool to work with a team. I mean, I have a lot of the same crew for Vermont SportsCar, Subaru Motorsports USA, that I've had since my first year rally in 2003. And I think that's really neat because there's no second guessing. They're on it. They know me extremely well. They know what the car needs to be able to take.
For me, the livery made the car, and I'm not just saying that because I was involved in the livery. When you take a Brat and you try to make it cool, you try to make it tough, like flat black is like making something really tough, it just doesn't work. It falls apart. I think once the car sort of embraced that, it really all came together. it went from me looking at it initially going, there's a bunch of really awkward angles, to like once a Livery was on it, it was a 360 for me. It's like I looked at the car and I'm like, yep, every angle looks good. Like this looks cool.
You look at a car that is flat black, like Project Midnight, which is a flat black car with some gloss black logos. That was a 57 revision Livery. 57 times back and forth to get that. And this is just, it's way more complex, but everyone, the first time they saw it, thought like, yeah, that's it, that's a Livery.
Air Slayer all carbon, I honestly thought that was the Batmobile. I was like, this thing looks good. The Brat, it looked okay, but when the stickers went on, and especially when you got it outside of the city, I don't know what it is about the aesthetics, but it looked like it was in its home. It was in its happy place. But the funny part is, after we decided to go with the Brat, and then they decided to go to Australia, I'm like, man, the Brumby, it fits right in.
The Brumby was named after a horse, so why not use it as one?
There were some places that just didn't work. So one of the locations we were looking at to go to was San Diego, and it just didn't seem to fit in as well. We thought about like maybe we turn it into a surf truck, put another bar in the back, put a surfboard on the roof. But then that was actually kind of weird because like Travis doesn't surf. I don't even know if Travis can swim, especially now with all that metal in him. But I think that the car started to actually sort of like lean our hand into doing something that fit the truck. Obviously, the Ute is one of the #1 selling vehicles in Australia, so that was one connection. The Brumby, which is what the Brat was sold as in Australia, I think had the longest selling span in Australia, so a couple things started to check off. More and more we started to say, man, this thing feels really out of place. Like if we were to do like Gymkhana in New York City, the Brat just doesn't fit. But in Australia, it seems like so at home.
Go watch Aussie Shred right now to see this car in action, all the fun things we put it through.